Alright, everybody. We're gonna read through chapter 2, just like I said, and then if I still have energy at the end of it, we're gonna continue writing. I don't think I will, though. I'm just gonna say that right now. Yeah. We're gonna read through chapter 2. If anyone asks what's going on, you point them to this stream. We're gonna read through the entirety of chapter 2, and yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Okay. A red race car pulled up to home state penitent. Alright. Chapter 2. Every day is a bad day. A red race car pulled up to home state maximum security penitentiary. The car parked with a loud screech noise. The left-hand door opened. Out walked a smartly dressed skeleton. He must have been at least 11 feet tall. His arms drooped to his sides. The figure looked almost comical, but with a powerful strut, he walked into the building. As he walked through the dusty halls of the prison, he saw the room that his client was in, and with a sharp left turn, he walked into the room. Across a metal table was the demon, the woman who had single-handedly brought a small community to his knees. It was Toriel Dreamer. She looked like she hadn't slept in months. She was covered in scars and wearing a black shirt with Mom 316 on it. She looked bored.
Hello, I am the Great Paprika. You must be Toriel. It is so good to meet you.
He pulled a metal chair and sat down, locking his fingers together as he met with Toriel's eyes. Are you my lawyer? She asked. She sounded ready to die.
Why, yes, of course. Don't worry. I believe we have this case, as the kids say, in the bag. What is in the bag, you ask?
She did not ask.
Hope! See, our strategy will be a simple one. You will simply apologize for destroying hometown. I'm sure they will forgive you after that.
First appearance of Paprika, yep. Was this guy serious? How long had he been a lawyer? This would never work. Toriel held her hands to her face. This was never going to work. She could have easily escaped from prison, but no, there's no point. She deserved to be in here. She owed it to her family. Any other ideas? Toriel questioned. Are you still right? No, I'm recapping it.
Nope. We can't say you're not guilty because we'd lose that case. Everyone saw you, murdering the National Guard. But it's okay. I believe we can still win this. You'll be out of here in no time.
Wow.
No time at all.
Toriel put her head in her hands. She had done what she had done to become free of consequence, and here she was with possibly the world's stupidest lawyer. Could the day get any worse? Chris sat alone in the room. With their home destroyed and the Flower King shop flooded, where they were actually going to sleep was up in the air. They buried their face into their pillow, still attempting to process what had happened 6 months ago. Their mother had destroyed the town and called them a disappointment. It still stung. Even Birdley's comfort wasn't enough to make them truly feel better. Someone explain why Toriel had done that? Okay. Toriel found Chris kissing Birdley. Toriel then snapped and decided to become the strongest. Okay? That's what happened. Since Toriel was strong, she was tired of bowing down to the weak, and she snapped. So Kiss was chrising Birdley. Knock, knock, knock. The door had opened. It was Rouse. Oh, hey, Chris. Chris really didn't want to see him. They still had not told him that Birdley and him were going out. They said, burying their face in their pillow.
Is this not a good time?
Chris didn't answer, or else they had a skewed interpretation of time. These past 6 months felt more like 6 years to the Dark Prince.
You want to talk about it?
They really did not, but they felt a sharp pain in their chest and began moving their lips against their will. Sure, Chris said. Else hopped onto Chris's bed, sitting next to him. Chris also sat up. It's just hard to grasp that Mom would truly do something like that, Chris blurted out. Else looked down. He didn't have a mother. Actually, come to think of it, he didn't have parents. Come to think of it, he didn't have parents either, but he still wanted to say something to Chris. Or I'll say more like, I don't know.
I don't think anyone could have expected it, Chris. Sometimes people are just different than you think.
Yeah, Chris said. They felt like garbage because they hadn't slept properly in weeks. The fact that some people started to move on, it just bothered them. Chris didn't know what to do. The trial began tomorrow. They still weren't ready to see their mother again. Or I'll say more like salsa. I think I have to go. Chris said that, and it made Zeralse's stomach sink. He wanted to be there for Chris, but everything he had tried to distract them had failed. It pained him, but he accepted it. He wasn't real, so he shouldn't feel things, should he? Or else he just stood here. Just sat there. Sophia, I finished the art. Okay. After Chris leaves the castle town, we'll look at your art. How about that? I think I have to go. Chris said this to me, or else his stomach sank. He wanted to be there for Chris. He had tried everything he had tried to distract them and failed. It pained him, but he accepted it. He wasn't real, so he shouldn't feel things, should he? Or else he just sat there.
Okay, Chris, I'll be here when you come back.
Chris just turned and nodded. Or else he was always so sweet, wasn't he? Okay, this bit is fucking stupid, and I hate it. Chris left the room, and Rousey quickly became preoccupied with boredom. They hadn't sealed the dark fountain in months. Susie brought Noel every once in a while, but for whatever reason, Noel just bugged him. Maybe it was the fact that she was better at cooking than him, or the fact that she was so close to Spanton, but that guy really freaked him out. Whatever the reason, constructing a room was a real pain in the ass. Or else they got off of Chris's bed and did a backflip. He did it just because it felt like it would make someone out there happy. He said, I'm tired. I am tired. Family court is something I can relate to. Take place after chapter 4, yes. As Chris left the school supply closet, they felt tired and would probably have to convince Susie to sleep at her place again, which would suck. But they decided to visit their father in the hospital. They opened the pearl white double doors of the medical facility. The place was overrun with monsters in hospital beds. Why can I not spell bed correctly? As the nurses were spread thin, attending to all of them, Chris saw the head doctor, a man they were pretty sure had beaten up Birdley. One who looked oddly familiar. Wait, had they seen this man before? He simply looked at Chris and smiled at them with a nod before leaving the building. Alright, we're gonna see Birdley's art. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Birdly, what the fuck is this? You need to explain yourself. Birdly, what the fuck is this? Chat, what is this? What is this? Why is his fucking tongue blue? Why does he have a tongue? Sans, mind closing the door? Oh, jeez, Carol, you don't need to ask twice. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? When I last had Freaky Sans and Freaky Carol last stream, yes. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? I hate Birdly. I hate it. What? I hate it. No. Oh my god. Birdly, why? Why? My eyes are watering from this peak. Birdly, why? Birdly, why? Great art, though. You did a good job. You mentioned Carol is freaky, or too freaky for Sans, and I was arguing with you. Oh my god. No. This is cursed. Alright. No, oops. Oh, hey guys, you can see yourselves. Which one is that? Stream fanfic, there we go. Wait, is Carol actually well drawn though? Save the image, Sophia? Fuck no. Simply looked at Chris and smiled at them with a nod before leaving the building. Chris had opened the door to their father's room. He was in a deep coma, and lucky to be alive. His soul was cracked, but he had healed in just the right time. Chris looked at him. They weren't sure how to feel about their father either. He had run into exactly 6.5 children that night. But their mom had committed worse crimes. Everyone just assumed that Asgore would get custody of Chris. But since he was comatose, it was more likely that that was never going to happen. Chris sat in their chair next to their father's hospital bed. The beeps of and ambience of whispers outside filled them with emptiness. Just then the door opened. Oh god, it was her. I'm changing the music to something more appropriate. Okay. Carol Holiday opened the door, flowers in hand. Chris shuddered. Oh, hello, Chris, she said, not expecting to see them. What was she doing here? She only used Asgore as a manservant, degrading the once proud man into nothing but a joke. Was she there for them? Oh God. Chris inched away. They knew this couldn't be good. I just posted more art. Okay, give me a second.
I came here to pay respects to an old friend. You know, he and I were once rivals of sorts. Isn't that funny? She said with a toothy grin. Chris didn't know what she was talking about, but seeing how she had treated their father, that tracked. Chris, are you eating well? You look like you haven't eaten in days. They hadn't. They had laid face first in their room in the dark world for about 3 days. Their stomach growled. Oh. Sorry, chat. I'm really out of it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, chat. Okay. Yeah, no, that was me. I came here to pay respects to an old friend. You know, he and I were once rivals of sorts. Isn't that funny? She said with a toothy grin. Chris didn't know what she was talking about, but seeing how she had treated their father, that tracked. Chris, are you eating well? You look like you haven't eaten in days. They hadn't. They laid face first in their room in the dark world for about 3 days. Their stomach growled. Why don't you come over for dinner? Noel will be happy to see you, and it grows tiring just being the two of us. Come on, what do you say? Okay, I know you posted more art, Birdley. Just give me a second. Let's go to the next, scene, and then I'll look at your art. She was being uncharacteristically warm. Chris remembered all the times she had told him to do things he didn't want to do. But they were cold, and they were hungry. Maybe Carol had turned over a new leaf. Before they could respond, a choice was made for them. I'd love to, Chris said, covering their mouth. Oh, Chris, that's sweet. You don't have to be so shy about it. Come now, she said. And with that, Chris dragged their feet, walking over to Carol. After you, she gestured at the door. But as Chris walked to the door, they felt an icy grip on their shoulder. Say, Chris, why don't you come over to the shelter later? She said, not really asking. Chris gulped. They knew Carol would ask them to support that thing again. Carol then looked over to Asgore. He was weak and vulnerable. It would take one attack to kill him. It would be easy to frame Chris for the murder, too. She leaned in and whispered in Chris's ear. It seems our knight wasn't as invulnerable as we thought. So come by, okay? Please don't hurt my family anymore. Please, Chris said, shaking. Who said anything about hurting anyone? Just be a good child and do as you're told, she whispered with a grin. Chris stood there and did everything she had asked. They'd even put their own mother in danger last time. Why wasn't it enough? Would it ever be? A sharp pain burned in their chest throughout their body, and Chris turned their head and said, Yes, Carol. Carol tilted her head in amusement. Now then, we're having roast beef. I hope you're hungry, because I always make too much, she said in a normal tone of voice. Come now, Chris, she said, walking her high heels clacking on the tile of the hospital as she did. Chris let out a sigh of exhaustion as they That was the most they'd sweated since Toriel's rampage on the town. Okay, next paprika scene. Give me a second, chat. We're gonna look at Birdley's art.
What the fuck is this? Birdly, what is this? Birdly, what is this? Birdly. Birdly, what the fuck? It's Markiplier. I know it's Markiplier. I know it's snowing in the background. It's a bite of 87 thing. Yeah, I know. I know what it is, but it's just like, what the fuck, bro? It's peak. Trust, it's peak. I'm sorry you don't have as much energy. I'm really tired. Let's munching pliers. Okay. Paprika gathered all of his papers. Paprika gathered his papers. This would be hard, but he knew that with the right attitude and spirit, he could win the case. It's like 12:30 for you and you ain't it. How'd you know that? How the fuck did you know that? Shooting for over 12 hours can't be healthy. Yeah, but it's what... I still don't make enough to pay my bills. Anyway, Paprika gathered his papers. It would be hard, but he knew with the right attitude and spirit he could win the case. He just had to convince the jury that Toriel could change, which would be easy. Oh my god. I hate Google sometimes. Anyone can be good, and before a rampage, Toriel was a kind school teacher who even took in a human child in an all-monster community. If anyone was capable of redemption, it was Toriel. He walked past the prison doors, and that's where he found,
Wowee, if it isn't District Attorney Muffet!
Paprika chimed like a whistle. He held out a bony hand for a handshake. Muffet, however, did not share his overwhelming enthusiasm.
How good, it's you again!
He said, already getting a headache from the skeleton before her. He said it like 12 times. Oh, God. He's got back. What the fuck is going on, y'all? Okay, I'm rereading Chapter 2. This is like Paprika's second scene. Oh God, not you again, she said, already getting a headache from the skeleton before her.
How the hell were you even assigned to this case after your last failure?
District Attorney Muffet asked, raising one of her 5 eyebrows.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you, but I won't give up. Miss Toriel is a good person. I know it. I just do.
God damn it. Muffet should have a lower pitched voice. No. Give me a second, chat. I need to no diff this fucking song. This song is pissing me off. Paprika said, clutching his two fists. He was getting really pumped up. Muffet sighed. Damn it all, this case is going to be a shit show, she thought, though it didn't have to. She laughed to herself, dragging a finger down Paprika's chest. See you in court, she smiled and winked. You ever heard my Muffet's laugh? I have. She's all hee hee, galley ho. I assumed the message to fit the goat joke from Birdley at some point. What goat joke? I'm confused.
Okay, why are you touching me?
He asked, genuinely not knowing why.
God, you're such an idiot. Well, if you say so.
Paprika then walked out of the prison, papers in hand. He had this. He wouldn't fail the case. And hey, bonus, he got to go to his hometown and check on his lazy bones of a brother. This would be great. Paprika's oblivious, yeah.
Oh, what a fuck you! Why would you want that of a skeleton?
Chris awkwardly sat at the table looking at Noelle. It was obvious neither one of them really wanted to be there. Chris prodded the slice of roast they had on their plate with the fork. The earlier conversation they had with Carol made them lose their appetite. When they saw Noelle for the first time in 6 months, they still hadn't fully forgiven her. I still hadn't forgiven her for hitting Birdley with the chair. But she still risked her life to stop Toriel, which is still respectable. My dryer's squeaking and I'm too short to see the buttons. Then get taller, dumbass. Noelle, on the other hand, clutched her finger, wielding the scar that the thorn ring had left on her finger, trying to ignore how addicting that feeling was. The dinner table was quiet. Neither one of them wanted to say anything.
So, Chris, how's school coming?
What did I just find? I'm reading through the fan fiction we wrote together on stream. I'm really tired. The school had been one of the few buildings spared in Toriel's onslaught. Thus, everyone still went to school. Chris, however, had been failing every class. The only purpose they had for the school building, was the closet. Chris awkwardly looked away. Carol paused, saying,
Noelle is now head of the class, isn't that right, dear?
Yeah, Noelle said, putting some broccoli in her mouth.
So how about dinner you two go study together?
She said in the warmest voice possible. Both cringed at the thought. The truth was Carol, ever since both were 5, had always tried to push them together. It's part of the reason that they were both so uncomfortable eating at the table. The truth was the two were closer to estranged siblings than romantic partners, but that didn't stop Carol from suggesting it. Chris remembered how Noelle kept her relationship a secret from her mom. Chris, thinking about how their mother would react upon seeing... Thinking about how their mother reacted upon seeing Birdley, could understand. The fact remained, they did not want to study, least of all, not want to. Noelle is trans in this fic, right? Yes. You're gay confirmed? They did not want to study, least of all with Noelle. Chris knew that either choice was going to be made for them. Okay, Mom, Noelle said, hanging her head low. She really needed to grow a backbone, though so did Chris. Chris really did not want to be here, but they had no choice. They feared what would happen to Asgore if they did not comply. They cringed. They wanted to have a normal life again. One with a house that wasn't a crater. One where they could just play video games with Birdly and go on dark world adventures with Susie and Ralsei. But be it fate, bad luck, or something worse, they were trapped. Knock, knock, knock. The door to the newly rebuilt apartment building squeaked open. What is a good voice for Birdly's mom? Fuck it, it's going to be Lois Griffin. Despite the fact that it was 6 p.m., the woman who answered the door reeked of alcohol.
Peter, the horse is here. What the hell do you want?
It's just the QC voice. What the hell do you want? Miss Xavian said, slurring her words as she did. Good evening, Miss Xavian. Good evening, Miss Xavian. I was actually wondering if I could talk to your son, Officer Undine said, her face wrapped with a medical eye patch.
Is he in trouble or something? Birdly, the horse is here.
The bird monster asked, struggling to keep her eyes away. Me too. No, ma'am. I was actually wondering if I could just talk to him, Undine said with a smile on her face.
That's rich. You coppers never want to talk about anything but court dates and parking tickets.
The drunk lady laughed. Undine made a bored expression. I could come back with a warrant if you like. Miss Xavian cringed.
Birdly, get your ass over here.
Bradley walked out of the kitchen from the shower. No matter how hard he tried, the smell of onion plasm would not get out of his head. It could never be washed away. Yeah, Mom. He paused as he saw Undine. She greeted him with a toothy grin. Oh, both, he muttered. Hey, punk, come here, I want to talk to you. Undine waved over to him. Birdly walked over, his feathers still wet from the shower. Peter, the onion plasm is here. What do you want? Birdly said, cocking up an eyebrow. Undine pointed to the police car outside. Want to go for a drive? Undine grinned. Train me? Birdly was shocked. He was usually considered too weak for anything athletic, and was used to mimicking the moves he saw on TV when he fought people. Yup, you stopped Toriel, didn't you? Birdly gasped. How did Undine know that? How did you? Let's just say a purple dragon told me. Undine said, holding back a laugh. Susie, of course she spilled the beans. Damn it, Birdly just wanted to go back to normal and pretend like it didn't happen. He just wanted a normal life. I brought her in for questioning after I saw her shoplifting a handful of eggs. She seemed disappointed that you were the one who took her out. In any case, I still gave her a ticket for flipping me off. Peter and Deltaruning it. No. Can't say I'm surprised, though. You're the only monster in town who can ascend. Ascend? Birdly asked. Peter, I'm so tired, yeah. Please be good. No, no, no. Have I been spelling Undine wrong this whole time? I need to check that later. You know that transformation thing? I couldn't think of a better name for it. Thing is, if you learn how to use it, together we can protect Homedown so there isn't another, you know. So what do you say, punk? Undine asked, taking her eyes off the road and crashing into someone's dumpster. Good thing I'm a cop. Birdly sat there. He could get stronger. He tightened his fist, thought about the beaten state he saw Chris in. He needed to be stronger. He had not seen them in weeks, but felt the strong urge to protect them. Ridley felt his face getting warm. I'll do it. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Undyne grinned. After going up to Noelle's room and pretending to study for an hour, Chris got a notification from their phone. It was a message from Carol. It's time. It's time, is all it read. Chris got up from the pink couch in Noelle's room and simply said, I need to go. Noelle, seated at her desk, simply turned around and said, Bye, Chris. Before going back to studying, their relationship had really gone strained over the years, hadn't it? Carol's insistence probably did more harm than good. It didn't matter. Chris walked downstairs and saw Carol, who had put on a heavy black coat, and did an after you gesture. Chris walked out of the repaired doors of the Holiday Manor. They got a good look at the state of hometown had been in. There were still broken buildings, cracked roads. They had remembered Susie being slammed into, and of course, the crater where their house had once been. Yet the town was rebuilding. The people worked hard, and the trial was tomorrow. Everyone was full of anticipation. Chris felt dread, so they walked forward to the shelter. They heard a familiar sound of high heels clacking on the pavement behind them. This was it. They were filled with dread, but most of all determination, as they opened the rusty door handle to the shelter and walked in. Give me a second. I need more atmospheric music. Okay. Let's see the sumbitch load. Suddenly they were in the dark. Their blue skin shivered as they walked forward on the middle floor. The bottomless pit below the bridge. There was a bottomless pit below the bridge. The black metal stretched onward what seemed like infinity, and then they saw it. Grotesque building in the middle of the void. Chris did not want to enter it, but they felt the icy palm on their shoulder as they turned to meet Carol. She was in a long regal gown, a jagged crown of ice on her head. She looked about 10 years younger. It was uncanny. Go on, Chris. We have matters to discuss. Chris cringed and walked forward. The building almost looked like it was made of flesh with how round it was. Its pillars extended like veins from the heart. It was, in reality, it was a laboratory. Chris walked forward. The door sprang upwards, and there in the center, tinkering on the machine, was a very, very familiar person. Chris shivered. His eyes glowed yellow and pink. And a wide grin was stretched across it. Of course, that was just a clay mask. The rest of his body was draped in a black robe, where he stood about 10 feet tall. Welcome, friends. Fuck, I can't do it. Welcome, friends, inside the laboratory. His voice was oddly familiar despite being distorted. All Chris saw when looking at him was the man behind the tree. The man who had used his magic to push Dest into the shelter. The man who... It seems our last experiment was a failure. What do you two think? Indeed, Carol responded. I had assumed December would have been a worthy vessel, but it seems she was another failure. Chris remembered the first time they had seen the night. Her cold, dead face contorted to being living again. It was terrifying. Hold on, chat. Contorted to be living again. It was terrifying. Chris panicked. They knew what they were discussing. They wanted to create another one. They panted. They really didn't need this in their life right now. Hometown was in ruins. They hadn't left their room in Castledown in 3 days. Their father was in a coma. Their mother was about to be on trial. This was too much. Creating another thing. Another hellspawn. After it all, they started hyperventilating. Her successor seems obvious. Do share with the class, Doctor. Why not Toriel Dreamer? He said with a noticeable laugh under his breath. Chris winced. Mom, they thought. Toriel. Chris, Carol said with a noticeable stutter. Why her? She said, attempting to recompose herself. She certainly has the power to enact your will. Yes, that's true, but how do we even get her in here? Carol said, deflecting as she turned away. Chris noticed that Carol had always looked odd when talking about their mother. It was bizarre, for feeling a sharp pain in their chest. It wouldn't be hard to. What about Birdley? Chris coughed out. They covered their face with both hands. Why? Why did they choose him? Anyone but him. The soul had gone too far this time, making them select their boyfriend out of all people. You mean Noel's old study partner? Carol asked. Though Chris could not see it, they knew the doctor was smiling wide. He is adequate. The words made Chris's blood run cold. No, not Birdley, please. Not Birdley. They gritted their teeth and then ripped out their very soul. Chris, what are you doing? Then they took their sword and slashed the soul in twain. Blood exploded from the tiny heart in their own mouth. And with that, Chris lost consciousness. When they woke up... Oh yeah, by the way, obligatory... Oops. When the snow was grave. They awoke in front of the bunker. They felt pain in their chest. Felt the pain in their chest. From dying. This must have been the save point. They started breathing heavily. Birdley? Why Birdley? They thought. Was their soul just not content ruining their own life? Chris, are you alright? Carol said, placing an icy hand on Chris's shoulder. Chris swallowed. It's nothing. They said under their breath and opened the door. They walked through the cold metal hallway, and for the second time, They waited for the conversation to commence. However, the doctor acted strange. He turned to Chris and stared at them. Cold sweat ran down their neck. "Good day," was all he said, staring into Chris's eyes knowingly. Then Carol appeared from behind. "It seems our last experiment was a failure. What do you two think?" The doctor explained as he did before. "Indeed," Carol responded. "I'd assumed December would have made a worthy vessel, but it seems she was another failure. Her successor seems obvious." Do share with the class, Doctor. Why not Toriel Dreamer?" He said with a noticeable laugh under his breath. "Toriel," Carol said with a noticeable shudder. "Why her?" She said, attempting to recompose herself. "She certainly has the power to enact your will." "Yes, that's true, but how would we even get her in here?" Carol said, deflecting as she turned away. Chris held on to each word, praying the soul wouldn't make the same mistake again. However, the soul had other plans. Why not Rudy?" Chris blurted out. They put their hands over their mouth again. Things had certainly taken a weird route. Carol had whipped her head to look at Chris. "What?" she said with a glare. The doctor laughed to himself. Chris felt her icy grip around their throat. "Tell me why you said that," she said in a deep voice. "Now, Carol, they have a point. Who better to replace the knight than her father?" Carol dropped Chris. They landed to their side. "Rudy is different." The doctor then threw his head back and laughed boisterously. "You used up your daughter now, and only now do you have regrets?" Carol tried to find her composure. Carol said, "We're doing this to create a better world, yes? I don't see how using a crippled old fool will help us achieve that goal. And frankly," she turned to look at Chris with an icy stare before looking away. "Frankly, I don't see the point in killing Rudy. Des was different. She was about to expose our entire operation. Rudy is innocent." Her usual composure was back. Chris's blood had boiled. But now they were no better than Carol. They had marked somebody they knew worthy of death. They felt appalled with themselves. They wondered if resetting would be a viable option. But then they saw the doctor staring at them through the cold hard mask. Did he know? Was that even possible? Chris, against their will, opened their mouth. "Rudy is almost dead anyway. It'd be easy to kill him and then create the new knight with his dust." "Hey, bro. Hi. What?" "I'm gonna fall asleep watching this." "Okay, cool." Chris covered their mouth again, biting their hand hard. Carol looked enraged. Chris knew with that look that Asgore would likely be killed by her in the near future. Chris started up. Why had they said these horrible things? Why had they said these horrible things? Why were they being made to do this? Listen, you, Carol started. Interesting. This opportunity only provides itself in 15% of timelines. Yes, very interesting indeed. Now, Chris, do as your will commands. Carol looked to the doctor with a look of disbelief on her face. What? The doctor turned back to look at her, and what must have been no more than 4 seconds, Carol opened her mouth and said, Fine, you could have Rudy. She said before turning around and facing away from the rest of the group. Chris picked himself up off the ground and walked away. The doctor waved goodbye as they did. The next day, the entire town was crowded. Okay, this is the courtroom scene. It's the courtroom scene. Chat. Courtroom scene. This is the final scene. It's also the longest one of the fucking fic. Okay, let's go. Yippee. Hey, bro, what? Help, Kane sends us stuck in a time loop. He could stay in there. No idea, leave them alone. The next day, the entire town crowded the courtroom. On one table sat Paprika with his client still wearing the Mom 316 shirt. On the other table was Muffet, a cup of coffee in each hand. Commotion broke out in the courtroom as nobody could find the judge. During the commotion, Chris took their seat next to Noelle and Susie. Both of them were in black suits. Chris was in their normal attire.
Dude, I fucking hate wearing this thing,
Susie said, clawing at the oddly tight spot on her back. Noelle just kept her head down, trying not to be recognized in masculine clothing. Chris had felt bad for both of them. They knew Carol had given Noelle the suit. Cringed thinking about being forced to wear clothes they didn't want to. What's up, bitches? A familiar annoying tone ran out. It was Birdley. He was in a sleeveless suit to show off his muscles. I forgot about this. You good, chat? You good? Susie cringed. Noelle pretended not to notice him, but Chris, however, lit up. He could never know this, but they had saved his life last night. They wanted to run into his arms and embrace him right there. This was the first time they had really seen each other in a while. Their eyes locked. Birdley blushed and looked away. Oh, Chris, funny thing, you here. He was cut off by Chris's inhuman speed as they kissed Birdley on the mouth in front of everybody. And the entire town looked on with a weird feeling of disgust. Pizza Pants chanted, "Woo, that's my little buddy!" What it is, motherfuckers, is motherfuckers. Holy shit. What it is, motherfuckers, motherfuckers. Holy shit. What it is, motherfuckers, is motherfuckers. Holy shit. Jackman, drugs are bad. Pussies. Pussies. Alright. Susie face palmed to avoid seeing it, and Noelle tried hard not to gag. Wow. That was all Burley could say before Chris wrapped her arms around him and hugged him tight. Turned to an eternal pacifist route. I missed you, they mumbled. Hey, lovebirds, hate to rain on your parade, but we got a trial to watch, Susie said, crossing her arms. They were both overcome with embarrassment and sat down on the bench beside Susie and Noelle. The door opened and the jury came in. The jury was an assortment of humans and monsters from around the state. Despite the fact that they were all very opinionated, they were all hideously ugly. Couldn't they have found more appealing jurors? No, wait. Couldn't they have found more appealing jurors? Burley asked to Chris. I know, right? Chris responded. And with that, the court was in session. Or at least it should have been, but the judge still had not arrived. Paprika was tapping his foot impatiently before screaming, "Sand, you lazy bones! Get over here and do your job!" A tiny skeleton then appeared in the jury. Whoops, I forgot I was judging this thing, Sand said with a wink. Chris and Susie's jaw dropped. What the hell? They simultaneously thought. Toriel simply looked mortified as she turned to her lawyer. Excuse me, is that the judge? Why, yes, he is my older brother, Sans! Toriel's face widened. But I never voted for him. Really? Well, I heard he was appointed by a Miss Holyday. Whoever that is. Toriel didn't know whether to feel relieved or mortified, but out of the corner of her eyes she saw Carol Holiday. She waved with a knowing smile. What the hell was happening? As Sans got up to the judge's desk, he gave Toriel a wink. Muppet saw this. Why, you two know each other? She said, giving a look of pure suspicion. Yeah, I know her. I heard from the manager that she destroyed my store. Who's your manager? I don't know, I'm the only one that works there. But, the jury and crowd burst into laughter. Toriel's face fell. Perhaps Sans wasn't going to be that lenient on her after all. Paprika turned to his client and gave her a wink and a thumbs up. Court start. God, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this stream chat. Alright. Sans slammed a squeaky hammer onto the desk. The prosecution may begin their case. Muffet jumped from her chair so fast that it fell over and clacked on the ground. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. I hope so. I got places to be. Ahem! As I was saying, the defendant Toriel Dreamer is accused of several counts of murder, assault, battery, assault of an officer. Terrorism and property damage. The town winced in remembrance of that day. Most of all, Chris and Bradley, who had taken the brunt of the assault. These streams give you joy and whimsy? That's good.
And arson! Don't forget arson!
Paprika chimed in, and Toriel's face fell. Her defense attorney was reminding the courtroom of the crime she had committed. Muffet coughed even harder this time.
As I was saying, she destroyed a small community, destroyed countless lives. 103! She destroyed exactly 103 lives! Will you shove off?
She screamed at Paprika.
I'm sorry, I thought you had forgotten. I was reminding you, see?
I can always count on my bro to remember things.
Sans, you're supposed to be impartial.
Whoops. Whoa, wait a minute, Pap. You can't judge a judge.
Sans!
Toriel sank into her seat. She was fucked, and nothing Paprika could say would stop that sinking feeling of despair in her chest. She looked at Carol, and for once, at the same time, for once, it's the time she had met her, Carol looked genuinely confused, like she didn't know how something would proceed. Muffet, however, was tapping her head up against the wall, waiting for the two brothers to stop bickering.
If you're done, I'd like to call my first witness to the stand.
Objection.
Sans, you're the judge.
Oh yeah, thanks, bro. Muffet looked as if she was wondering if it was too late to choose another career.
My witnesses!
A loud drum roll was heard in the audience. It was Paprika drum rolling on a wooden table.
Will you cut that out? Oh, sorry.
Sans pulled out a trombone and played it womp womp womp.
Sans, where the hell did you even get that?
From a convenience store.
Objection! You said your store was destroyed!
I know. The manager gave it to me. Muffet rubbed all four hands on her face in mental exhaustion.
I'd like to call Chris Dreamer to the stand.
The courtroom erupted into gasps. Chris got up and gave Purdley a peck on the cheek and walked to the stand. They noticed the head doctor of Hometown Hospital wearing a number one dad mug and wearing a baseball cap that read, Dadster. Chris paused for a second. A feeling of ease in the air. There was definitely something up with that guy. Chris walked up to the stand and sat down. The courtroom started murmuring amongst themselves. Chris feared the worst. Officer Napstablook floated up to them and said, Do you swear to tell the truth and stuff? Alright, kid, don't crisscross your fingers, the judge said, his eyes sockets becoming empty. Chris felt a sharp pain in their chest, like a dagger ripping their flesh asunder. They felt like lying. I'll tell the truth, they said dishonestly. Alright, cool. Sans and Papyrus' voices must be canon. Oh, thank you. I'm really tired. My Sans voice is usually a lot more on point. Muffet walked up to them.
Who is that woman?
That's my mom.
And is it true she destroyed your home?
Muffet asked. No, that was a gas leak. My mom loves our home. She'd never destroy it. You can tell where the pole was held in this fic, yeah.
That's right. I'm sorry, what?
Toriel looked at her child. Why were they lying? Was it to cover for her? Susie leaned back. What the fuck? She yelled. Noelle was in shock. Why was Chris lying? Bradley's eyes widened. He was there. When he saw her destroy their home. What the hell was happening?
But that can't be right, right?
He turned his head to Toriel. She nodded. We'll be streaming tomorrow? No. I'm probably not going to stream until like next weekend. Toriel felt ecstatic. Maybe she could get away with it. Yes, what Chris is saying is true.
Well,
No.
well, she still beat you up, right? CCTV footage captured you flying into the convenience store before it cut out.
My mom would never do that. You must be mistaken. The pain in their chest was unbearable, being forced to lie against their will. The truth was they wanted nothing more than to see Toriel behind bars. But because of this damn soul, they kept acting out of character. Muppet stepped back. You're dismissed! Slam. Chris slammed the desk. No, damn it. First they offered up Rudy's life and now they weren't going down without a fight. You really enjoy these streams? Oh, that's good. I guess I'll give people a chance to catch up. Kid, are you okay? Those desks are probably expensive. Probably.
Yeah, there's just nothing wrong. Your mother, on the other hand.
That freaking cut himself off, and Toriel cut himself off and gave Toriel an apology smile. Toriel just glared at him. Took all of Chris's might, but they pointed at Toriel and screamed, "She slept with the judge." Chris then clutched their chest. It was pulsating with pain. The entire courtroom fell into stunned silence. "Hell yeah, Chris!" Susie roared. Her voice being the first pop-up of the crowd. Susie? Noelle questioned.
Don't you see, guys? Chris was lying to make Toriel look worse, and now the entire trial has been thrown into question. Chris was playing us for fools,
she said with a grin. Good night, everyone. Good night. Impressive, Susan. You keep doing mental gymnastics like that, and your brain will match mine in strength.
Shut up, human breath, she snorted.
Carol, on the other hand, sat there, her eyes practically bulging out of her head.
He what?
Toriel felt her face grow red, and she looked down at the wooden table in shame.
Sand, you slept with a defendant?
Sat there was sweat on his brow before he shrugged again, saying, come on, kid. A bed barely has enough room for two.
How do you know that?
I plead the fifth.
Sand, you're a disgrace to judging itself. You wouldn't be fit to judge a cooking show, let alone a court case, you shit-eating buffoon.
Paprika screamed. Toriel looked on in horror. Language, paps.
All right, sorry. Wait, hey, don't change the subject, you nincompoop! You spineless numbskull!
Chris panted heavily and Toriel glared at them. Chris flipped her off in response. Muffet tried her best to compose herself for what had just unfolded, yet she could not. You're dismissed, Chris. Chris walked back to their seat and looked at the shocked residents of hometown as they did. Then Then they high-fived. Susie sat right next to their boyfriend. Paprika, however, continued to berate his brother.
Where the hell did you get your degree, Sans? Are you even a real judge?
My degree's right here. Sans pulled out a piece of paper with a permanent marker on it and simply read degrees nuts in your mouth.
Sans!
Muffin paced back and forth over and over again. She didn't know what to do with this information. Kristen still lied, making it impossible to form a competent case around giving Toriel the death penalty. Yet, she had received important information that sleazeball of a judge had slept with the defendant and didn't even try to deny it. Can I call my next defendant to the stand? Muffet asked. I don't know, can you? Muffet rolled all 5 of her eyes and just carried on. I call Police Chief Undyne Stevenson to the stand. Bam, the doors to the courtroom swung open. Undyne held her boot in the air for dramatic effect. Then she walked down to the stand with an undeniable presence and aura. Birdley pointed to her with his thumb and said, That's totally my sensei right there. Birdley sat on, Undyne, oh dude, it's so hard. Sat on the desk, kicking her feet up as she did. Hey, Undyne, Napstablook said. Hey, Napster. Want to tell the truth? They said. Oh, sure, I'll give it a try, she said, gnashing her jagged teeth. What's up, Undyne? Hey, Sans.
Hello, Undyne!
Shut up, Paprika! She yelled.
Okay!
Muffet sipped one of her 4 coffees. This is going to be easy.
So, Undyne, how'd you lose your eye?
Muffet started.
Oh, I know, because Toriel...
Shut up! Toriel jammed her thumb in my eye, Undyne explained. Yeah, I could see why that would be a problem. Oh, fuck off! Undyne laughed. She and Sans then high-fived in front of the whole courtroom.
Sans, that was really insensitive.
Shut up, Paprika.
Okay. Ah, and how did that make you feel?
Muffet said with a grin. Undyne narrowed her eyes. Dude, I'm so tired. I don't know if I can finish this. It's genuinely a struggle to keep my eyes open. And they narrowed her eye. How do you think that made me feel? How do you think that made me feel? Muffet sipped her coffee again and smirked. Why don't you share it with the class, hon? It hurt like a bitch. Undyne went really close to Muffet, being sure to intimidate the district attorney, but she just smiled back. The jury clamored among themselves. Muffet knew she was making progress. How'd you get that scar on your neck? Muffet asked. We're tired to go to bed. No, I need to finish this. I got that from Toriel after she threw me into a car. Pizza Pants then arose from the seat. My car! He screamed at the top of his lungs. Sit down! And both Undyne and Muffet said at the same time. Pizza Pants became deflated and then sat down. After she threw me into a car, then she bit out a chunk of my neck. Some jury members gagged, and Susie even held her mouth in horror. That must have been really painful. Muffet started before being interrupted by Paprika. Of course it hurt. She lost a chunk of her neck. Oh, she must have been real hungry. Yeah. Sans and Undyne clasped their hands together, dapping each other up. That wasn't funny, Sans! Shut up, no one was talking to you, Undyne responded. Ahem, officer, Out of 5, how would you rate being maimed by the boss monster? 5 out of 5. Would fight again because this time I'd win. Give me a second, I need to start the music again. No. Undyne said, cracking her knuckles. Muffet stood there with a look that read, "Are you fucking serious? How the hell am I supposed to make a case now?" "I dismissed, officer," Undyne said under her breath. This was supposed to be the easiest case of the year. Open and shut case. Yet for some reason, Chris had decided to lie about their mother's rampage, and Undyne ruined everything by making it seem like she would win the run back. This was difficult to say the least. She needed one final witness. It would be Birdly Avian, and it would be Birdly Avian himself. "I call Birdly Avian to the stand!" Birdly readied himself. As an alpha gamer, he knew he'd be called to the stand. He walked with pride to the desk. He sat down, being sure to catch Toriel's dirty look towards him, and he smirked in response. "Not gonna lie, Tad, I think he's cooked," Birdly said gesturing to the jury. They all looked pretty appalled. Susie facepalmed, and Noelle looked for any spare steel chairs. Chris just looked on lovingly. "Hello, Spampton G. Spampton." "Mr. Avian, can you tell me what happened between you and Miss Dreamer?" "Well, not to brag," he said while pushing up his glasses. "Oh my fucking god," Susie said under her breath. "But ask anyone here and they'll tell you the same thing. I kicked Toriel's ass." It seemed that Birdly had forgotten that no one actually knew that he had beat Toriel, but he was high on his own ego at this point. Everyone began to murmur amongst themselves. Toriel was reading a paperback copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. Her face contorted into an evil grin as she pointed at the cover. Then Paprika turned to her and asked, "Wait, did you lose to a teenage boy?" "I plead the fifth." Toriel responded. Yes, it's true, I won." Muffet was just about ready to call it an early night and embrace her lover, Jack Daniels. Genuinely, what was he talking about? She had expected Burley to be some brat who Toriel fought. And now he was bragging about beating her. This was Undyne all over again. She needed to focus. She was the district attorney, damn it. The job was hard, but she had harder jobs than this. Mr. Avian, did Mrs. Dreamer hurt you?" Birdly winced. Of course Toriel had hit him. She broke his rib. Had hurt him. She broke his ribs 3 times. But this was in front of the whole town. He couldn't just admit that he got his ass kicked. No one ever... No, not this time. The town... No. This time, the town would remember him for being the man who beat Toriel. The man who saved the town. It was nothing I couldn't handle. It was mere flesh wound compared to what I did to her. Hell yeah! No, hell yeah! Undyne yelled from the crowd. She returned to the nearest monster and said, "That's my disciple!" It wasn't happening, was it? Dude, I'm so tired. so hard to stay awake. What was it? This wasn't happening, was it? This was happening, wasn't it? The easiest case of all time. Someone who definitely did it, a whole town full of witnesses and an idiot defense attorney, and yet she couldn't make a cohesive case with this. Was everyone in this town an idiot? I mean, it was sad, really. After I cut it open, it wasn't much of a fight at all. Muffet's mind shattered. What did he just say? The crowd started talking amongst themselves. The jury wasn't all the stupidity on display. That's really bad. Judge said, looking at Bradley. I'm trying not to fall asleep. It's really hard. Paprika's jaw had fallen off. Toriel rolled her eyes. He only cut a few organs and was not that serious, Toriel muttered under her breath. Gee, sounds like the defendant had a very awful, no good, very bad day. Yeah, and it was thanks to me. What? Susie screamed. Bradley, what the fuck are you doing? Bradley just flashed an okay sign and winked. Carol Holiday laughed to herself. This is going to be easier than she thought. Muffet fell down to her knees, exhausted. How could anyone possibly be this stupid? She thought. No! Bradley was the one who was confused. That's it. Nobody actually was this dumb. Muffet fixed her hair with two hands. And make herself look professional. Can I clarify? She asked, praying to God Bradley would give her some sob story that she could run Toriel out look like the demon that she really was. Certainly. I thought across the stomach and came to the skull and with punches. Then only when it stopped is when Chris begged me not to kill their mom. Honestly, I thought she was stronger, but she couldn't compare to my macho moves. When you put it like that. Susie was speechless. No one was banging her head on the backside of the front counter. I'm sorry, chat. I'm really tired. No, Muffet was at her breaking point. Did you almost murder someone? Muffet said under her breath, knowing that Bradley was going to say, but praying he didn't. No, I almost eliminated someone. The room was speechless. Bradley presented himself as a complete psychopath. By comparison, Toriel didn't seem so bad anymore. So you want any more witnesses? Muffet was lying on the floor in the feet. She was curled up in this fetal position. She didn't want to live anymore. This is the worst case she had ever worked on. She managed to pull herself off the floor, managing every ounce of strength she had left. You're dismissed! Bradley clicked his tongue while pointing his finger at Muffet, then walked back to his friend group. Susie was ready to kill him. Noelle was searching for the thorn ring. Chris, however, just gave him a simple thumbs up. Real alpha, my guy. Thank you, Burley said. Burley then kissed Chris. Buffa was at her limit. She pulled out a cooler full of beers, and with one swift motion, the cooler case cracked open, and she cracked open a beer, chugging the entire thing down in one gulp. She wiped her mouth and moved forward to the next can. I think she's done. Your turn, Pap. Paprika did a fist bump, jumping towards the center of the courtroom. He'd been waiting all day for this.
Greetings! I am the Great Paprika! And this is my wonderful client, Toriel Dreamer.
He waited around for a round of applause that never came.
Anyway, I know Toriel has done some bad things,
Like totaling my car, Pizza Pants yelled in a sea of silence.
Yeah, like totaling your card, but I can assure you she has changed.
Toriel facepalmed. She knew what was coming next.
She has chosen to remain silent, not out of disrespect, but respect for those she had harmed. If she could only speak today, she would apologize. Specifically for first-degree murder, second-degree murder, harassment, disturbing the peace, involuntary manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, resisting arrest, property damage, terrorism, arson, assault with a deadly weapon, assault of an active officer, dismemberment, vehicle damage, mutilation, and environmental damage. And most of all, she would like to apologize for embezzling school funds to help pay for a new car back in 2016.
Toriel was shaking her head violently and signaling for Paprika to stop listing her crimes, especially the embezzlement. Carol Holiday sat firmly in her seat. She had no idea how the rest of this would pan out.
But please, I beg of you, have we not committed a small mistake? Sure, we haven't, say, killed an entire nation or evaporated our precious lake. National Guard. Killed the entire National Guard or evaporated our precious lake.
My parents are fighting. Who do they mean, yeah?
But all of us have made mistakes and all of us can change.
Everyone sat there confused a moment ago. They would have been content locking away Birdley, throwing away the key, but now they had been reminded that their homes were destroyed and that people were killed by this demon. Muffet had fallen asleep in a drunken stupor. Her loud snores filled the courtroom while everyone was silent.
And with that, I would like to introduce my first witness, Asgore Dreamer.
The virus gasped. Everyone gasped, including Toriel. Asgore, what could that old fool accomplish, she thought to herself, remembering how she had beaten him to a pulp. Her lawyer really was an idiot. Why the hell would Asgore defend her? We're almost done.
Chris, isn't your dad in a coma?
Susie asked. Chris nodded, unsure themselves how he would even testify. Then the courtroom door swung open once more. Asgore was in a wheelchair, but he was awake.
How the hell did that happen?
Susie asked. Chris had a similar thought. Carol, however, looked in her eyes towards the doctor of Hometown Hospital. He simply winked at her back. Carol smirked confidently. Perhaps Asgore did have his useless. Asgore wheeled himself down to the aisle, waving at Chris and their friends with a welcoming grin. He actually found himself in place. Eventually he rolled himself in place. Struggled for a little bit, but he arrived from the terrifying. But then he arrived at the testifying desk. Absalbook flew closer, but Asgore held up a hand to the very athletic ghost. It's all right, little one. I have no intention of lying. Paprika stood up to the desk.
Howdy, Mr. Dreamer!
Howdy.
What is your relation to Miss Toriel, if you don't mind me asking?
No, it's fine. She's my ex-wife.
I am in disbelief. A stud like you single? What a silly world this is!
Paprika said with a smile. Asgore laughed, though he wasn't sure if he should have. Oh, it is.
Work with me here, Mr. Dreamer. Did Toriel ever hurt you or your family?
Asgore winced. His chest stung in pain from that still stung in pain from that 1-inch punch. Well, no. Chris spat chocolate milk out they brought with them.
What?
Noel coughed up.
What is this bullshit?
Susie spat out.
Yes, well, wait. Yes, she did. Did you just...
Asgore put a finger over his lips and hoped Paprika would catch on. He did not. Carol held her face in both hands. Paprika really was the biggest idiot in all of hometown.
I cannot believe it! You are nothing but a liar! Sans, I want a new witness, one who is honest and truthful.
But wait, my good sir. I had meant to say that she had hurt my family. But we have since come to forgive her. Chris face-palmed. Everyone in the courtroom knew exactly why he was defending Toriel. Even Toriel cringed.
Oh, then why didn't you say that earlier? Jeez.
Okay, can someone laugh at Asgore's joke? I'm too tired to make edits.
Okay, then why didn't you say that earlier? Jeez.
Asgore breathed a sigh of relief.
As you can see, if this dishonest man can come to forgive Toriel, then so can all of you.
Damn, bro, that's crazy. Just finished an 11-hour spree. Do you never sleep, bro? Sleep is for the weak. The court remained silent. No one was really convinced. In fact, there were a few unconvinced. Paprika, however, did not give up.
Let's see Toriel's crimes through the eyes of another criminal. I call to the stand.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Am I dismissed?
Yes, get out of here.
He shooed him away off the desk.
Anyway, we must understand the criminal mind to understand Toriel. Please. Welcome, Susie. Okay, I don't actually know what her last name is. What?
Noel blushed.
Susie, you're a criminal?
The dear girl's mind filled up with thoughts I cannot describe here.
I'm not a criminal,
she angrily screamed.
That bonehead has me all wrong. I would never commit a crime.
Theft, Chris said, sipping their chocolate milk.
Fine, so I'm a criminal. So what?
Susie responded. Angrily, she got up and walked with her fists balled up. She walked down the aisles to the testimony desk. She sat crossing her eyes, glaring in front of her.
Susie! Might I call you Susie? Yeah, that's my name, dumbass. Well then, Susie. Might I have insight on that woman over there? Might I have your insight on that woman over there?
Paprika said, pointing towards Toriel. Toriel refused to look at Susie again. Susie felt her rage boiled over and then slammed her fist into the desk, cracking it.
That bitch destroyed all of hometown! She's pure evil!
Sorry, chat.
She's pure evil! There's no redeeming her!
Paprika stepped back. He was not expecting that rude response. He recomposed himself.
Well, that was pretty rude, Buster. I was hoping that your unique proclivities could with your unique proclivities could relate to that reprehensible retrobate. Relate to her? Hell no! Hell no! Susie smashed her fist through the desk, breaking it in half. She then pointed her finger full of rage at Toriel. I'm nothing like her. She hurts people for fun. She laughs about it. You know what? Fuck this. She clenched her fists and walked through the court doors. Come on, Noelle, we're leaving. Noelle excitedly got up and ran after Susie. Carol just looked on in disgust. Links considered that went pretty well. The courtroom sat there murmuring amongst themselves for Paprika, but he simply shrugged and moved on. And we're caught up. We're caught up, chat. We did it. We caught up. Okay, I'm going to end stream because I'm really tired. And then we're going to come back to this next weekend. So thank you all for joining me. It's been a real one, chat. Oh my god. Goodbye and good night, everyone.